You notice what I'm wearing?
You've got your Charge Baby Charge hat on.
Yes, and we will talk about that.
There's a reason for that, is there?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. Uh, when do you want to talk about that?
I,
Now?
I figured I would start with it.
Okay.
Should I kick it off here?
Did we start the podcast already?
I think so.
All
Ed
right.
Sanchez, 10 plus years in automotive content creation and moderation, day job, automotive electronics industry analyst, and the Watt Car co founder and contributor.
I am Phil Royle. I, you know, experience, blah, blah, something, something. YouTube.com/, at the Walk Car. And you can watch us there. Have I
Comment
really?
there.
Yeah. Is it obvious that I've kind of given up on these intros? Is it?
I think let's just get to the meat of it. What do you think?
Yeah. I basically there's we're on social medias. Share, like, thumbs up, ring bell icons. Uh, I don't know, whatever it is that you want to do. You go right ahead and you do your thing. Our
All
thing
right.
is apparently going to be related to your Charge Baby Charge hat, which you would see if you were at youtube.com/, at the Watt Car.
Yes. So we've talked various and in various ways in various episodes about the Tesla supercharger network, which, regardless of what you think of Elon or Tesla as a brand, is generally regarded as the best, most reliable, easiest to use DC fast charging network. Now, they may not hold that title forever, but they've effectively had a 10-year head start and it kind of shows.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, there's nobody complains about the Supercharger network. It's probably the only charging network that nobody complains about.
yeah,
Like, the technical aspect of it is, I mean, like you said, you could complain about the person who owns it.
yeah. No, but in terms of the integration, the uptime,
Hmm.
everything, it kind of sets the standard.
Yep.
So, what the next question is, are they going to set the standard with sustainability? Um, and if their latest project is an indication, that answer could be yes. So this is from Inside EVs. It's their what they're calling it Project Oasis, supposedly. So this is a supercharger location in Lost Hills, California, which, when finished, will have 168 charging points. So that's
And
big.
Lost Hills is kind of in the middle of nowhere. Just
Yeah, it's
FYI.
right off I-5, I think.
Yeah,
Right.
it's off I-5, Central Coast, Central California, inland.
Yeah,
There's nothing there. There's farmland.
yeah.
So there's a lot of land to deal with
But
there.
it's right off. Is it 101 or five? I want to say.
It's off the five.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty I-5. If you don't know, is a pretty major thoroughfare in
Hmm.
California. So this, I think, would probably dwarf even Kettleman City, which is also expanded. But anyway, so they have currently have 84 stations that are operational, and Tesla is claiming completely solar powered. Um, so they claim that this is not getting any of its power from the grid. So if you look at the pictures of it,
Which,
they
link in the show notes.
yes. So all the charging stalls are covered by a solar canopy. Excuse me, canopy. And in addition to that, there's a pretty large, like, solar panel array kind of off to the side a little bit, kind of co-located, but rather large. It looks
Yep.
like probably,
It's not as large as I would have thought.
yeah. I'm guessing, if I had to guess looking at it, maybe 1 or 2 acres, maybe.
Sure. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea.
um, so so it is, even though Tesla's claiming this is being off grid, I think because of laws and stuff, they have to have a grid interconnection somehow. So they have one, but it's much smaller than what would typically be required for a DC fast charging station of this size. Um, so yeah, they're claiming the what they're calling a solar farm, kind of off to the side of it, generates 11 megawatts. So, and I guess to go along with that, there's 10 mega packs to store that. So, because that's the thing with solar is it's good when it's flowing, but when the sun goes down or that's so again, not to get too off into the weeds. That's the problem with renewables is they're intermittent. They're not they're not steady state. They're not
Hmm.
always consistent. So the key with the renewables is being able to store the generated power. So with that,
They should put
with
it
that,
into hydrogen.
yeah, yeah, we know what a big fan Elon is of that. So anyway, the combined storage capacity of the 10 megapacks on site is 39 megawatt hours.
I
That's
don't even
a
know what these
lot.
numbers mean. I mean, it's like a million bajillion. Like,
I would guess that's pretty substantial. So anyway, but big, I don't know, big charging,
so you said
big
it's
volt, big
84
charging.
stalls, but then you have a note in my little cheat sheet here that says that they're doubling it, 168.
Well, no, I said when it's fully built
Yeah.
out, it'll be
Okay.
168.
All right. So I
So they
missed that.
have 80, basically half of them operational currently,
So
with the
is
other
the,
half under
are
construction.
they
Yeah.
increasing the amount of the solar farm in relation to that, or is it like I don't, or we just
I
don't
don't
know?
know.
Yeah.
We don't know yet. Like I said, we do know 84 currently operational, so that's about 50% of what the total will be. Um, it will be 168, and they're claiming that it's going to be basically powered fully off grid.
I have
So,
no reason to not believe this.
mhm,
Supercharger network has always kind of, as far as I'm aware, they've always kind of come through with their promises.
mhm.
And so I've got zero reason to doubt this. But I've always heard with these chargers that when there's a charger and there's a covering on it and it's got solar panels, like Jeep has their Escape network or whatever it was, and those are all they got solar panel and there's some others.
Mhm.
I've always been told that that solar panel is enough to literally keep the light on that's underneath it. That there's
And
not
like the
much.
and like the display electronics, it's
Yeah, that you're not charging a car. Now there are some that do that, but it charges very slowly to a battery pack. And
mhm,
then if a car fills up, it could be hours and hours and hours before the
mhm,
next car could fill up. But these
mhm,
are in like remote areas, whatever, so it's not
mhm.
too big of an issue. But I look at the picture of this and I go, that doesn't look big enough to support this whole thing. So
I think,
good on them if it
yeah,
is, because the problem that I have with solar is it requires such a footprint.
mhm,
So the solar people keep coming by my house. I don't have solar on
yeah,
my
yeah,
house. They keep coming by and they're like, "Oh, you need to get solar on your house." I'm like, "Why?" They're like, "Oh, the price is going up." Okay, great. And they're like, "And the price of solar is going to go up with time too." And I'm like, "If you looked at the price of a solar panel now
mhm.
versus in the past, it's more generally, but the efficiency of the panel has doubled. So the price may have gone up
Oh, it's more than that.
25% or whatever it is.
In
Uh,
terms of cost efficiency,
But
it's
cost
like,
efficiency, yeah. So what you were getting with like a 150 watt hour panel or 200 watt hour panel are now 450 watt hour panels, but the
mhm,
price isn't more than double than what it was.
mhm,
So back in the day, you would get somebody get solar on their house and it would cover like the entire house. Now you can do it in half, less than half of that
mhm,
footprint.
mhm.
So uh, I don't really know where I'm going with that, other than the efficiencies increase, and so this doesn't look as big as what I'm thinking.
What you think? Yeah,
Maybe all the old solar farms that I see in the Central Valley area are old
panels from like the
panels.
80s or 90s.
Yeah, where you needed all of this land,
Yeah.
and now maybe
Well,
this is
I
good
think that's
stuff.
also based on some assumptions in terms of usage and utilization. I think they're sizing this for the expectation of basically 100 charges a day, which, I don't know if that's a lot or not a lot.
Yeah, I can't say
Um,
I've stood at a charger for a day and counted.
the only time I could see this maybe getting a little bit stressed out in terms of its capacity is around the holidays, like Thanksgiving, Christmas,
Yep.
where,
And this is the exact
yeah.
throughfare where
Hmm.
all of those the where it makes the news is literally that road.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, like during the holidays, if they'll haul in like a semi truck with an additional like mega pack buffer just to like kind of backfill it. Um,
Which
I,
they've
I don't know.
done in that. I think that was how they solved it last year, year before, whatever it was. They roll in their trucks. It almost makes you think that they should increase the grid connection.
Well, they
Make them
they
flip a
might after
switch.
the first holiday season. They're like, oh yeah, this crashed, so
Yeah, I mean,
we're gonna get a bigger pipe.
there's being self-sustaining, and then there's being a usable resource.
Well, yeah, there's average use and then there's peak use. So,
Yeah.
I don't know if they've fully anticipated the peak use, but or how they're going to manage that. But anyway, kind of interesting, kind of cool. Probably kind of what the future is going to look like in some form or another.
And thanks to NACS, everybody will get to enjoy that,
Yeah, so
not just Teslas.
maybe they want to increase that interconnect.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I don't know. That sounds good. I don't know. Tell me more, Tesla fanboy.
Tesla fanboy. Oh, so the long awaited and for like forever in the future low cost model.
The mythical $25,000
Yes,
Tesla.
the Model Q or Model 2, whatever, appellation you want to give it. Um, so I guess some of these were running around, I guess Fremont, I think. And they look like a Model Y kind of with its tail chopped off. Um,
These are at the manufacturing facility,
yeah,
um, not on public roads, as
yeah.
far as we know.
So for all intents and purposes, just kind of a shorter Model Y,
Yeah, a little stubby.
little stubby, you know. So hey, let's see it. It's like quit teasing us. You've been talking about this forever, and you know,
Have they though? I don't think they have.
well, I mean,
People have been talking about it for years. Elon has been denying it for years, but that is the job of like Elon denies things differently from other CEOs. Other CEOs and people that work at other car manufacturing always says we don't talk about unannounced future
future
projects,
product, yeah.
or potential future products, whatever it is. He just always says no, we're not doing it. And
Well,
then
but the last couple of quarterly calls, I think Lars Moravi and some other people have kind of said, yeah, we're working on it. But now I think before they said it would be shown by like now. So
possibly
it's
it'd be.
probably at this point, my guess is maybe we'll see it maybe August, maybe in the fall.
So do you think that this is a 20? So it's been my contention for a while that the
Hmm.
20 quote unquote $25,000 Tesla, which will not be $25,000, is just a decontented Model 3 or Model Y.
That seems to be the consensus. Yeah.
And these pictures seem to indicate that it's decontented and chopped a foot off the back.
Yeah.
So
Which
is
isn't necessarily about, so
no.
the thing, I can't remember the exact quote, but Moravi basically said, we're not going to make a worse car than we've made in the past, or something like that.
I remember you saying that quote before and I loved it.
Yeah, but so basically it's
It's
like,
such a comment to make about your company. We're not going to make anything worse than we've made in the past. Imagine like a Boeing CEO saying that.
no, so it's, so however you want to interpret that, my interpretation of that is it will be basically like the pre Highland and the pre Juniper Model 3 and Model Y. So it probably won't have the ventilated, you know, heated ventilated front seats, probably won't have the rear display, may not have a few other things, but effectively it'll be about the same content levels as my car, frankly, the
Yeah.
2019 Model 3, which has all the bells and whistles I care about. I mean, I rarely have passengers in the back seat, so the rear display is kind of like I don't really care. Um, so
Well,
if
and you wouldn't care either because you're going to be driving it and it's those yahoos in the back that, what do you care about them?
yeah, so I mean, this is fine. I just want to see it already. And honestly, I mean, I guess my wish list for this is, and I think this would might get some people's attention, is if I agree with you. I think 25,000 is that was probably calculated with the tax credit and all that. So
Hmm.
that's all out the window. So at this point, we're talking low 30s, right? So we're talking 30 to 32, 33, probably. Um, that's fine. Um, I want to see steer by wire. I think, you know, they've already done the proof of concept with that, with the Cybertruck. Um, uh, you know, it's probably going to have their latest, greatest, you know, hardware 5 or whatever it is. Um, I
You
don't,
think?
probably LFP batteries. They've already said they're going to start ramping those up in the US.
Hmm.
Um, so I think they probably will offer a dual motor option, my guess. So, which will be a little slightly less than the equivalent 3 or Y. But I mean, and a lot of people would be like, yawn, you know, who cares? But, you know, I remember when they came out with the Model Y and it looked like everyone thought it would, you know, it looked like a fat Model 3. And Elon very casually said at the introduction, almost kind of nonchalantly, oh, yeah, that'll probably become the best selling car in the world. And everyone said, oh, you know, he's so arrogant to say that. And it did.
Yeah, but
But it, yeah.
he's probably said that about every car that they produce.
Well,
So
I don't know if
just
they said
that
that
time
about the
it came true.
Cybertruck, but anyway, um, but it went on to become, you know, a pretty big success. So I don't think it necessarily has to be that revolutionary. I think because I mean, looked at in that context, the this may be blasphemy to some of the fanboys. The Model Y was not that revolutionary relative to the Model 3. It was what people expected. It was a larger Model 3 with the hatch, more cargo, more cargo capacity, so on and so
Yeah,
forth.
it was just a form factor that
Yeah,
everybody was looking for.
just the form factor. So this is going to be a variation of that, just that at a more attractive price point, possibly with some new technology. And I think that's all it needs to be, honestly.
You said potentially hardware 5, and I found that interesting because it also works into something that I want to talk about Tesla, and I'm going to try and not be negative. But do you think so? I think it,
I think I know where you're going with this,
well, it
but
could very
go
easily
for it.
tell you what they think the direction of the company is because they always they're always doing like a what I call stock pumps, where they're like, you just talk about, oh, the future is the robot. Oh, the future is full self-driving. You know, they
Mm-hmm.
talk about this.
Robotaxi.
Yes, this company is an AI company and whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
They're all in on whatever the next shiny object is.
Mm-hmm.
And at least right now, it seems to be FSD.
Mm-hmm.
We've thrown Optimus to the trash again, and FSD's back under the guise of full autonomous driving with the
I don't know why, but that just gave me the visual of like Futurama and then like tossing Bender aside.
yes. So I then, when you were like, you know, it comes with hardware, it could come with hardware 5.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, man, okay. So one of the things I want to talk about is uh, there is a guy who just went through arbitration with
Mm-hmm.
Tesla
Mm-hmm.
about FSD. He bought a vehicle for FSD, spent
Mm-hmm.
$10,000. It ended up never working. He
Mm-hmm.
got it for his wife who has some kind of
Mm-hmm.
disability.
Mm-hmm. So he claimed a
And
bait and switch.
yeah, and he said he's never done anything. I spent $10,000, never done anything. And they said, well, you've got to go through arbitration, which nobody's going to go through because, you know, it costs you
Pain in
money,
the butt.
whatever.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out he's an arbitration lawyer. So he goes through the process and wins.
Mm-hmm.
And Tesla has to reimburse him the money, the $10,000 plus $8,000 in fees, because they have to,
Mm-hmm.
when you dictate, apparently when you dictate arbitration, that means the cost of your arbitration is covered by the other company,
Mm-hmm.
presumably if you win,
Mm-hmm.
which he
Mm-hmm.
did. And the 8,000 will have been just to him. So it was just great.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he made money on this.
Mm-hmm.
This is essentially an $18,000 win for him,
Mm-hmm.
which is great. But they have admitted that
Mm-hmm.
hardware 2.5 will never do FSD and
Mm-hmm.
3 will never do FSD.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, they're all in on FSD. They're all in on the Robovan, the Robovan, and the Cybercab, and all this
Mm-hmm.
stuff. If the $25,000, one of the things that they could be doing is if they've got to change out everybody's hardware,
Mm-hmm.
like yours, because you
Mm-hmm.
paid
Mm-hmm.
to upgrade from 2.5
For
to 3.
hardware
And
3, yeah.
in theory, you've now shown that you want FSD by doing this. The only reason to do that
Mm-hmm.
hardware upgrade was
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
of this. So if they've got to upgrade everybody's hardware, or else they're
Mm-hmm.
facing this, which I would
Mm-hmm.
think that they are at this point facing
Mm-hmm.
class action. But everybody that bought FSD. Who knows how big that number is?
Hmm. Hmm.
They could take all that hardware 3 and throw them in these cars. Save themselves a bunch of money, but it would show what they think the direction of the company is. If the Model 2 or whatever this is called, $25,000 car does not come with the ability.
25,000.
Yep. If it does not come with the ability for FSD, they are saying that the future of the company is not FSD.
Hmm.
And if it does come with hardware 5 or 4, whatever the number is that
Hmm.
they now claim is necessary, then that would show that they're still all in on that. But I think there's a big tell here
Hmm.
coming. If they say, here is the affordable Tesla, and it's going to come with hardware 3, and we know hardware 3 can't support anything, but they're going to do it because it's affordable to produce, because all the
Hmm.
chips are cheap and they've already got a bunch of them that they had to buy back, and they can just start
Hmm.
refurb
I
and slap them in. I think that's going to
Yeah.
tell what they think the future of FSD is, whether or not it's what they claim, which
Hmm.
has been it's the future of the company, and then
Hmm.
Optimus was the future of the company. Now back to FSD, blah blah. Already,
I don't think they're going to backtrack to hardware 3. If it may ship with hardware 4, which is what the Y with the new SX3 and Y are shipping with. So it may not be 5, maybe 4. Um, here's okay. This is purely speculative. I don't have any insider info on this, but I think this could possibly pay off. Well, it's one way to kind of kind of prime the pump a little bit. What and this is in the absence of the $7,500 tax credit. Now that that's effectively disappeared.
thanks, Elon.
Yeah, exactly. Is if they do an $8,000 purchase incentive on the Model 2 or Model Q, or even across the lineup, saying, hey, if you have an older Tesla with the older hardware, as kind of, and it is self-serving. I'm not going to say this is completely altruistic, but like we'll give you 8,000 off on a new one. Could happen.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just a thought. I mean, because that way it's kind of a win-win. I mean, maybe they might take an initial loss, but I would say it would be cheaper for them to offer that incentive rather than having to deal with a class action lawsuit and having to pay out, you know, millions and millions of, you know,
Well, and
and
it's yeah,
it'd generate new sales for them.
yeah,
So
and the upgrade is not just like if they have to do a hardware upgrade, it's not just the hardware cost. It's a
labor,
it's labor.
installation, yeah.
It's a nightmare of something that they are not equipped to handle. They
Yeah.
are just set up for over-the-air updates,
Hmm.
and this is
Hmm.
not an
Hmm.
over-the-air update.
Yeah.
This is on a scale that they have not seen or handled, and we know that Tesla doesn't scale well to new
No.
things.
So that would be my suggestion, is that they offer this $8,000 purchase incentive for it's like a loyalty bonus or
Hmm.
whatever you want to call it, of current Tesla owners that don't have hardware 4 or 5 or whatever, you know, as kind of, they can spin it however they want. But
Yeah,
ultimately, I think logistically, like nuts and bolts, everything, that would be way easier than having to deal with, an angry mob of like, hey, you ripped us off, blah, blah, blah. We want restitution, arbitration, whatever. Just say, hey, come on in, 8 grand off, new model, boom.
yeah,
So may or may not happen. I don't know, just throwing it out there.
yep.
Uh, so yeah, I mean, so this is kind of a little bit of a left turn from what we've been talking about. So remember a couple of, gosh, I can't even remember what episode. Honda Project Zero, the Lamborghini looking
Hmm.
fastback, and
Yep.
then later on they did an SUV that basically just looks like a pilot,
Yeah.
effectively.
Yeah.
But so I guess, and I didn't know this until I read this. I guess they were planning multiple models. I heard as many as 7 different variants of Project Zero.
Hmm.
They showed the two. They showed the fastback sedan and then like a 5-seat SUV. I guess they were planning like a 3-row SUV, but because market sentiment toward EVs is kind of cooling off, I guess they've kind of put that on the back burner. So yeah,
Yeah. Uh, you don't think this has got anything to do with like Do you think they're putting all EVs on the back burner? Do you think this has got anything to do with American politics? Or is this just like Honda's looked at the market just we've done uh this like hockey stick trajectory with EVs for a while.
And
It
then
was
now it's
low
kind of
numbers,
flat. Yeah.
but yeah, it's definitely not accelerating to the degree that it was accelerating before. It's still going up, but
Yeah.
it's not the craziness that
But
it was.
basically, all the early adopters already have one.
Yeah.
The people that wanted to get one, they have one. The new buyers, they're kind of like, I don't know how I feel about this.
Yeah, and
Um,
you're going to get to 100% eventually, but it's going to take a long, long time. Like the
yeah,
last like 40% or whatever it
yeah,
is going to
it's
be
going to be
the
incremental. Yeah.
yeah, it's going to be very, very slow. Not because of, I mean, some of it will be because people are pushing back against EVs, but I think a lot of it will just be the average age of a vehicle on the road is like 12 years.
Hmm.
And if an EV buy-in is significantly more, and the price of cars in the last 5 years has
Hmm.
just skyrocketed. It's gone up
Hmm.
like, I was just listening to an RV podcast the other day, and they were
Hmm.
looking at 10 years ago, today, and then in 10 years, what they think will happen. The average price of a truck to tow their travel trailers,
Hmm.
it was something like, I forget the number. It was something like $62,000, something
That's
like that.
it.
It was something like that. But 10 years ago, it was like $36,000. So it
Yeah.
has
Oh, yeah. I
basically
believe it. Yeah.
doubled in 10 years. And so I imagine if your average life of a vehicle is 12 years on the road, which is what
Hmm.
it was a couple of years ago. I
Hmm.
don't know if that number's increased, but if that's 12 years, now look back at that, where it was the price of a pickup truck to tow your travel trailer has
Hmm.
doubled in the last 10 years. When you go shopping, you're going to be like, whoa,
Hmm.
like just so much has happened with prices.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the problem with that last like 30% or 40% or whatever it is of vehicle buyers is they're
Hmm.
going to get the sticker shock, not
Hmm.
necessarily for EVs, but for vehicles in general. And they're just
Hmm.
going to stick to the old
Hmm.
vehicle.
Yeah. I think that it was probably a lot of things. It was probably looking at profit margins, projected volumes. Honestly, three-row SUVs, even with ICE, are not the biggest market segment.
No, and the price is crazy.
Yeah, yeah. So the kind of the meat of the market are two-row, five-passenger, I'd say compact and mid-size crossovers. So I can't really blame him for kind of pushing the three row off and saying, we'll get to that. Um,
Did they
but
push off their sports car? Is
what
that
the
what the,
Lamborghini looking one?
yeah, the one that was
I
a
know,
cross
as far
between
as
a
I know,
dirt
they're
devil and
claiming
a.
that's still in the plan.
I would have thought that would have even less of an adoption rate than
Yeah.
three-row
Well,
SUV.
I mean, like you said, I think the adoption for that is going to be like a steep bell curve.
Yeah.
Like you'll have all the eager, like the early adopters want it, and then after that, it'll be like nobody cares.
How cool would it be if they made that their little handy vac Lamborghini
Handy back.
and Hyundai
Yeah.
made its what was that one? The DeLorean lookalike?
They say they are. They
Yeah.
say they're going to make it. Yeah.
So how cool is that going to be if
Yeah.
we've got both of those hitting the road at the same time? Like we've kind of been in a golden age of horsepower for
Yeah.
ICE anyway for the last few years, whatever it is. That we could go into like a golden age of enthusiast EVs if like Hyundai makes
Oh,
its
well, I mean, we're already
why am
kind of
I
there.
why am I blanking on the name of that thing? Whatever it was. And then the Honda Handy vac. The
Handy.
it's got to be a better name for that.
Gosh, why can't I? Oh gosh,
Are you trying to think of the Hyundai?
are we going to race?
We'll race to the internet. We shall see.
No, not in. Is it the Envision?
No,
Envision 74
okay. I
was
found a
the
picture.
original concept. Yeah.
Yeah, Envision 74. That's right.
Yeah.
Which would you get? That or the Project Zero Lambo
Mm,
thing?
Probably the Project Zero because I think it would probably be a little more practical. Because Project Zero, that's still a sedan on paper at least.
So you need the sedan so you can have the back seats empty.
Exactly. Where I don't care about anybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's like I rarely have people in the back seat, but it's nice to have just
It's
in
nice to
case.
think that you could have people back there.
Exactly. So anyway,
Yeah, all right. Okay.
So speaking about softening demand for EVs, so everyone's been beating up on Tesla, like, oh, they have such a crappy quarter, sales are down 14%. Well, Rivians were down a little more than that,
What were they? I've not looked any of this up.
24% down
So, um, the problem with this though is Rivian's numbers are so small
relative to Tesla. Yeah,
that you can have a small numeric impact makes a big percentage impact. And it
true.
works the other way around too.
Yeah.
You could say I had 100% sales increase this month, and it's like, okay, so you sold two. Uh,
Oh yeah. It's
uh,
funny because in my one of my previous jobs, one of my regular duties was like doing the monthly sales when they were still doing monthly. Then they decided to do quarterly. But like when the Hummer EV went from I don't know two to six,
yeah.
and it was like 400% increase. Whoa, you know.
Off
So
the charts. It's crazy. So is this bad for Rivian? I mean, I say that the problem with low numbers is the percentage swings a lot
mhm,
on
mhm.
when you're producing anything with low numbers. But they're still talking, let's see here. So in this article, they're talking, is this quarter Rivian made 5,979 units in the quarter compared to estimated 11,330. Yeah, that's pretty bad. I thought the number was higher. The company reiterated that its annual delivery forecast is between 40 and 46,000. Is Rivian going to make it?
I hope so because I want my R3.
And I really like the R1S. I'm seeing more and more of those around. I wonder if they're running deals on those. My neighborhood, there's getting to be a ton of R1Ss around. They're mighty handsome little
Yeah, well, I
SUVs.
mean,
Well, big
you could probably
SUVs.
get a year like a 22 for I don't know 50, 60, maybe less.
Well, and they've got a similar problem as Tesla with their hardware.
Yeah.
And people that are buying like a Rivian, I don't think you accidentally buy a Rivian. I think you're kind of a nerd when you buy a Rivian. So you probably know that you want the newer generation. So it's got the
Mhm,
newer hardware. So
mhm,
the system looks better, and
mhm,
the ADAS will work better, and all of this stuff. And that you don't want the old one. I'd be fine with the old one because I don't even like
mhm.
what is it called where the cruise control reads off the car in front of you and then adjusts your
Oh,
speed.
adaptive cruise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I even hate that. Like if I ever when I'm driving other cars that have that, it's like the first thing I turn off. I was in a rental car. What was I in? Mazda? I don't even remember. And you couldn't defeat it. You could turn
Oh,
it
yeah.
down, but you could not turn it off.
That's actually one of
So
my
bugged
favorite
me.
features.
Oh man, you're cruising down, you're doing long road trips. You're cruising down the freeway, and all of a sudden you discover that you're doing 62 miles an hour in a 70. And you didn't even
Because you're stuck
realize
behind
it.
a Prius or what?
Because yeah, because you got stuck behind a bolt that needs to do 60 miles an hour to get to the next station. There. Oh wait, this is a pro EV podcast.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
anyway, yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, Rivian. I mean, I guess Rivian's kind of found a sugar daddy with Volkswagen because
Hmm.
VW just gave him another $1 billion, presumably for their software expertise. That was kind of the original auspices of the deal. Um,
Didn't they get
so
some
I guess
other money in, or maybe I'm confusing it with Lucid, and Lucid got some other money infused. But I kind of wonder with it all sounds great that they got more money and that they've got these partnerships and deals and whatnot. But then you look at that, oh, they're going to make 40,000 of these things that should be mainstream pickup trucks and SUVs.
at 80 to 100 grand.
Yeah. And
But
you
well, I mean,
go,
here's the thing. I'm going to cut him a little slack. RJ Scaringe has openly admitted they're like we're not where we want to be in terms of pricing. Hence why they're kind of pedal the metal with the R2.
mm-hmm.
Really, really trying to get that to market as soon as they can because they know that's going to be the sweet spot of the market. It'll open them up to a much larger customer base. Um, and eventually with the R3, even though people say, oh, Americans don't like hatchbacks, I honestly, at least in enthusiast circles, I feel there's more excitement and anticipation about the R3 than the R2. Um, so, again, that may be like, early adopters and then just kind of, but if they have any export plans, I think the R3 would be very popular in Europe, just because they like hatchbacks over there. Um, so, I think Rivian is not in denial about where they are. They're like, look, we know we know we need to get our prices down. We know we need to get more affordable to get our sales, our unit volume up. Um, so they're not denying this or obfuscating or saying, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. They're like, yeah, we get it, but
Still got to do it.
still got to do it. Well, I'll tell you what they did finally do. And I remember when they were teasing this, I guess even before the R1T was actually officially on the market. Do you remember Tank Turn
I do.
when they
And
teased that?
yeah, they came out and they said our truck will do the tank turn, and then like
Wah,
6 months went
wah.
by, and they were like, "Nah, it won't." And they gave the excuse of it doesn't tread lightly, it doesn't
Yeah,
go to our ethos of maintaining the environment, which I got,
yeah.
sure, but it sounded like a bit of a cop out because you would have thought that would have come up in a meeting earlier.
I think so. So the first generation quad motor R1T and R1S were the Bosch motors, and I think we might have covered this at some point or other. There was actually a lawsuit between Rivian and Bosch for like warranty claims.
Yep.
I don't think they turned out to be quite as robust and reliable as they were expected. So I
Mm,
think they did the tank turn thing with prototypes and say, "Ooh, look at this cool party trick we can do."
yeah.
But I think once they did it a few too many times, they like broke.
And something went boing.
Yeah, they broke the drivetrain and say, "Okay, let's not do that anymore." But with the new generation quad motors, those are Rivian developed motors, and I'm assuming, I know for a fact they're a lot more powerful than the first gen, but I'm assuming more reliable, a little more robust. So I guess they decided to bring it back on the Gen 2 quad motors. So
So back to destroying
the
the
environment.
environment and not treading lightly. Um,
But the coolest thing is you can do this like in motion, supposedly.
what?
So like on the Mercedes because the G-Wagen,
Yeah, it can do that too. They've done it. They
it
did
can do
like
it too, but you have
they
to
did
be
it in
fully
Vegas on streets. They went down the
on
streets,
the
but they did
tarmac. And
like
that's,
yeah, they did like two or three of them like
yeah,
synchronized doing this.
yeah, synchronized tank or anyway, so with the G-Wagen, I guess you have to be fully stopped before you can engage it, and you have to go into like the secret menu or whatever. I guess with the Rivian, you can activate it up to 12 miles an hour.
Does that seem safe?
I don't know, but I guess you can do it,
It's like
and
Rivian Tokyo Drift Edition or something.
yeah, there you go. Um, so yeah, so cool, I
I
guess.
yeah, I it's one of those things that I don't know. I don't know what the purpose is. So I've mentioned this before. Let me go on a tangent for you. I've mentioned this before. I watch a lot of YouTube off-road recovery and
Hmm.
general fabrication stuff because I'm a nerd, I guess. I don't know. And one of the things that really helps out on the trails there when they're doing their off-road recovery is, and it would help other people, I'm sure, is things where you can do like a front dig. So you can lock your rear tires down and then you turn your front tires and you run all the power to the front. You basically turn your off-roader into a front wheel drive and you can
Hmm.
drag the nose of your car left or right to
Hmm.
do essentially like a tank turn.
Hmm. Hmm.
And in watching them do things like that, it does seem like a useful tool to have in your belt when you're
Hmm.
doing some
Hmm.
extreme off-roading to be able to control the front axle separate from the rear axle and direct the power that you want to go where.
Hmm.
I don't I can't say that I've seen an application in these videos where a tank turn would be super duper helpful. I'm sure it would have come up a couple times and they would do it. But these like front digs that they do seem very useful in certain
Hmm.
situations. Some of them are even like to bury an axle so they can anchor their vehicle down. So you'll lock
Hmm.
down like the front axle, you'll brake on that, and then you dig the back down so it dives into
Hmm.
the dirt, and
Hmm.
then you hit the brakes in the back, and then you dig the front down. I don't really know. It seems like a party trick. This seems very much like what I was saying when Tesla came out with the uh not ludicrous. Was it ludicrous? The 2 second mode. And you could do cheetah stance and all this
Yeah, yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And it was like it's a party trick. So it's something you do and you do
To
it a couple
impress your
times.
friends. Yeah,
You impress your friends and then you never do it again.
yeah.
And that's kind of where I put this. I think this would be more useful to give you the ability, and maybe they do it, to lock individual
Okay. Well, I
wheels
mean, but
and
maybe
whatnot.
that's a Q126 over the air update.
It could be. It
Yeah.
could
There's
it
no reason they couldn't do what you're talking
yeah,
about.
they could lock individual wheels and they
Hmm.
could have just the front left works or just the back right or whatever you want to do. They
Hmm.
can do all of that. But I guess I guess they're going back and I thought that the tank turn thing had already sailed and nobody cared.
I think it was more a matter of they could do it. They did a proof of concept that they could do it, but the mechanical failures probably exceeded their expectations, and not
Yeah.
in a good way.
And the last thing you want is these vehicles to be breaking. When you're trying to convince people to buy them and then you give it a feature
Well, and then
and then
also
you're like,
too, I
and it
mean,
broke.
what would the optics be if they had this feature, but says, but if you use it, your warranty is invalidated.
Well, remember the GTR when the GTR came out?
Yeah.
Godzilla came to America, and that had people were launching them. The media would
Hmm.
get them, and they'd do these
Hmm.
launches. And after like 15 or 20 launches, they'd be blowing transmissions up because they
Hmm.
weren't designed to
Hmm.
do launch after launch
Repeatedly.
after
Yeah.
launch. They only got like X number of launches out of them before you
Hmm.
start, flinging pieces of metal.
Hmm.
So this could have very much been a
Yeah.
similar thing. Do you have anything else you want to talk about real quick? Because we are right up against the end, but
Okay. Well, so okay, I'm just going to mention this really quick, and it's worth a watch, I think. Okay, Jason Camissa, the favorite provocateur from Haggerty, right? And he does it. I think he does a lot of cool videos. He's a little cheesy and over the top, I admit it, but they're sometimes thought provoking and very interesting, and the production quality is
oh,
pretty good.
it's insane the production
Yeah.
value. He's doing stuff that nobody else has done.
Yeah. So anyway, so they did this latest one that actually dropped the day we're recording this. It's oh gosh, Lamborghini, or no, not the Lamborghini, the Audi R Q8 RS, um, uh, uh, Macan EV, Porsche Cayenne turbo, um, Lucid Gravity Launch Edition, or whatever it's called, um, and then the R1S quad motor. Anyway, throw all these guys into the mix, and it's the results are very interesting because some of these vehicles are very closely matched in certain areas, and some they're little ways off. Um, but if you want to show, if you have kids, especially if they're into physics at all, but they're kind of bored with like the classroom physics that they're getting in school, like, watch this. This video is actually an excellent physics lesson about torque, power delivery, um, torque curves, um,
Interesting.
the nature of internal combustion versus EVs, kind of the whole, all that, worth a watch. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Hmm.
So,
Are we going to include a link in the show notes?
yeah, sure.
Sure, why not? And we'll include links to all of the stuff in the show notes as well. The show notes you can find embedded into the podcast at thewalker.com and also at youtube.com/at
At
the
the
walk car,
Walker.
which I've been getting right recently, which is amazing.
Did we make any comments?
I don't know.
Are
I
we
don't go
still a
to
chore?
I don't yeah, we're still at shore. I don't go to our
Well,
YouTube channel.
you have to do laundry. So,
That was an episode a couple
so
episodes
listen
ago.
to us while you're doing your laundry.
Yes. Yeah. We can help with the chores. Thewalker.com/store. I need to take that down. So beat me to it and order a t-shirt or something. And thewalker.com/advertise for major companies that want to advertise, like Rivian needs to advertise with us and get those numbers up. We can, I don't know. I mean, my neighbors all buy your
Once you start
cars.
making them, throw us in R3.
Yes, that would work too.
Yes.
Okay, next week I'll pencil you in for about the same time and let's make a podcast.
Sure. Sounds good.
All right, I'll send you an invite.
Excellent.